Cuyahoga County's Council special meeting for Monday, March the 16th, 2020. Clerk, please call the roll.
Excuse me. Calling the roll, Ms. Baker. Baker. Here. Mr. Miller.
Here.
Mr. Tuma.
Here.
Mr. Gallagher.
Here.
Mr. Schron. Mr. Schron is absent at the moment. Ms. Conwell.
Yes.
Mr. Jones.
Here.
Ms. Brown. Ms. Stevens.
Present.
Ms. Simon. Ms. Simon is absent at the moment. And Council President Brady.
Present.
There is a quorum.
I'd like to make a motion to excuse Jack Schron's. Never mind. We knew you had a meeting, Jack, and so.
Thank you for
Yes.
consideration.
Very good. All right. Pledge of Allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And Councilwoman Simon has just arrived as well. Very good. Under silent meditation, I'd like us just to take a moment to reflect on the people that we are pledged to serve in this difficult time. Madam Clerk, is there any public comment?
No, Council President, no one is signed in.
All right. Could I have a motion to approve the minutes as printed on the agenda?
So moved.
It's moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it. The minutes are approved. I'm going to have some comments. Today I usually don't. Our primary purpose for calling this special meeting today is to put legislation before the council that will allow for flexibility in emergency spending during this crisis. We will also be considering legislation that will allow us to give our employees additional administrative leave if they have exhausted their sick leave, with the goal of ensuring that every employee who is sick has the time to stay home and recover. Additionally, it is my intention to take care of all county business that is unfinished. I am hopeful that we will only need to cancel the regular meeting next Tuesday, March the 24th. We happen to have a 3-week gap before our next regular meeting on April the 14th. As you are aware, gaps between regular council meetings occur about twice a year as the calendar dictates, and this will be no different. We are all aware of the big picture as this crisis unfolds. We know there are many unanswered questions and uncertainty during this unique period. But we are here today to take care of internal county business and to keep our legislative process moving forward for the good of the community. We are not going to be out of session during this period, but we are going to operate differently. Committee meetings are discouraged. We will communicate remotely with each other, with our staff, and with the administration. Our offices will remain open for the convenience of our members and staff, but we are encouraging members to work from home or other safe locations. I know all of us have family obligations and private business that we need to attend, and I hope this period will give you time to take care of those as well. We will still be in constant communication about county business. We hope to return to normal as soon as possible. We need to consistently educate ourselves through available media outlets. Fortunately, we are blessed with a unique healthcare industry that is already working full-time to meet the needs of our citizens. They are hard at work, and we are grateful for their service. The daily press conferences by the governor and his administration, particularly the Department of Health, are also very useful and educational. I am grateful to Governor DeWine in showing exceptional leadership in this difficult time. We look forward to working together with everyone at all levels of government and with the private sector to do our part in this unprecedented time. Message from the county executive. I know the county executive wants to come forward.
Thank you, Mr. President, members of council. Good afternoon. We're experiencing the biggest crisis most of us have ever known. It's local, statewide, and national. The coronavirus is highly contagious, and it's 10 times more deadly than the flu. The coronavirus poses real dangers to everyone in the community. If we stay calm and if we do our part, we'll get through this. There will be major sacrifices required of all of us, but those sacrifices will save lives. We're on top of this crisis, managing with the guidance of our health department, led by Terry Allen, and our emergency management team, led by Brandy Carney and Alex Pelham. We're working with experts from across the spectrum, the state and city departments of health, led by Dr. Amy Acton and Merle Gordon, the hospitals, emergency service providers like the sheriff, police, and fire departments from all across the region, and the courts and the prosecutor. We stood up our Emergency Operations Center, which has been running 24/7, with these key players represented. By working together, we can provide the best possible leadership. I want to thank Governor DeWine for his leadership during this very difficult time. I've spoken with him several times just during the last week, and I can tell you he's been responsive to all of our needs. Last week, I declared a countywide emergency. That gives us in county government the ability to buy things we need to manage this crisis and to do it much more quickly and nimbly than normal. I'm submitting to County Council today legislation to facilitate that process. The emergency order that I issued also opens up additional possible sources of funding to address the crisis. Here in county government, we're taking many steps to protect our employees and the public. We've significantly enhanced custodial services to constantly sanitize all of our buildings, to minimize unnecessary contacts that can spread the disease. We're telling our employees who can work from home to do so. Our directors are currently reviewing their employee lists to determine who can work from home. Obviously, not all of our employees can. For example, corrections officers in the jail, they just have to show up to work. But where employees can work from home, they will do so. We also want our employees who feel sick to stay at home. Employees currently have sick leave, which they can use. But what happens if they use up their sick time and are still sick? We don't want people coming in to infect others if they're still sick. So today I'm submitting to council legislation to add 80 hours of emergency administrative leave so that our sick employees can remain home longer. I just want to say I appreciate council's cooperation as we work to manage this pandemic. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, County Executive. Legislation introduced by council, consideration of a resolution of council for first reading adoption under suspension of rules. Could I have a motion to suspend the rules?
Mr. President, I move to suspend the rules.
Been moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Ayes have it. The rules are suspended.
Resolution number 2020-0067, making an award to College Now Greater Cleveland in the amount of $500,000 from the Cuyahoga County Educational Assistance Fund for Component 2 of the Cuyahoga County Educational Assistance Program for the period ending 6/30/2024. Adopt.
All those, go ahead. Sorry.
Thank you. We normally have a committee meeting to discuss the success of College Now Scholarship Program. This year is no different than it has been, although it would have been nice to hear how well the students are, but we'll come back to do that. And this is part of our educational assistance program, and this money's budgeted, so I recommend passage under suspension.
Thank you. And to that point, when we do return, we will conduct hearings in retrospect, but in the way that you've discussed. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All the no, any nays? All the ayes have it. The resolution is adopted. Consideration of resolutions for first reading adoption under suspension of rules. Could I have a motion to suspend the rules?
Mr. President, I move to suspend the rules.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Ayes have it. The rules are suspended.
Excuse me, Mr. President, do you want to do the discharge?
I did. I missed a page. Excuse me. Back to the second page. Discharge from committee and consideration of resolutions of council for second reading adoption under suspension of the rules. I need a motion to suspend the Rule 9D requiring 3 readings and 12S discharging from committee by petition, dispensing with committee review, and discharging resolution number R2 2020-0061 and R 2020-0062 to the full council for consideration. Could I have a first? I'll move it. Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. The ayes. All those opposed, the ayes have it. The rules are discharged.
Resolution number 2020-0061, amending resolution number 2016-0218, dated 12/13/2016, as amended by resolution number 2018-0067, dated 4/10/2018, which authorized an economic development fund redevelopment and modernization loan to Detroit Shoreway Community Development Organization for the benefit of a project located at 11801, 11825 Lorraine Avenue in the city of Cleveland.
Most of you know this project. It has been in front of us. This is the third time, the first of the third attempt to make this work. We do have people, I think, from Westtown, from the FASS Realty, and the Friends of the Variety Theater. But the amount is the same as it's been in the past. It is, however, no longer a loan. It is a grant. We've been trying for over 10 years to make this theater work. It's a 100-year-old theater. A lot of work has gone into this over the years. This is our third swing at the bat. We hope to make this work, and I would greatly appreciate the support of my colleagues to continue to make this project happen. Are there any questions? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, the ayes have it. Resolution is adopted.
Resolution number 2020-0062, authorizing a Community Development Fund grant in the amount of $25,000 to Northeast Ohio Alliance for Hope for the benefit of the East Cleveland Supported Development Model, Stage 1, Community Development Partner Capacity Building located in the city of East Cleveland.
Move to adopt. Second. Mr. Jones, this would have been in the CD committee, but I know this is Councilwoman Stevens' legislation, so do you want to speak to this?
Yes, this was reviewed in committee. It's very important. We know the needs of East Cleveland. This community development, this nonprofit will lay the foundation for helping this nonprofit to grow and to meet the challenges in the city of East Cleveland. So it certainly has my support, and it was reviewed thoroughly in committee.
Ms. Stevens, do you have any further comments?
In addition, this model can be used across the county to help communities as well as nonprofits who need to do forward-thinking activity on behalf of their community. And so I'm hoping that this sets an example for how we move forward in the future. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Any questions? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, the ayes have it. Resolution is adopted. Legislation introduced by the executive, consideration of resolutions for first reading, adoption under suspension of rules. Now we're back to where we were. Do I have a motion to suspend the rules?
Mr. President, I move to suspend the rules.
Second.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, the ayes have it. The rules are suspended.
Resolution number 2020-0068, amending the 2020-2021 biennial operating budget for 2020 by providing for additional fiscal appropriations from the general fund and other funding sources, for appropriation transfers between budget accounts, and for cash transfers between budgetary funds to meet the budgetary needs of various county departments, offices, and agencies.
Move to adopt. Councilman Miller.
Mr. President, my colleagues, this resolution is a special agenda of 5 appropriation items amending the 20 to 21 budget. The 2 notable items are a $1 million emergency appropriation for COVID-19 response and a $1,913,000 appropriation for the prosecutor's office for outside counsel for pending litigation. Of this latter amount, $728,000 reauthorizes money appropriated in 2019 but not spent. The remainder is new. The other three agenda items are routine. I recommend passage on first reading suspension.
Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, the ayes have it, the resolution is adopted.
Resolution number 2020-0069, authorizing Title 4D cooperative agreements with various providers in the total amount not to exceed $100,197.55 for child support services for the period 1/1/2020 through 12/31/2020.
Just ask for my colleague's passage. Did you get that? I'm sorry.
Okay, all those in favor say aye. All those
Aye.
opposed, the ayes have it, the resolution is adopted.
Resolution number 2020-0070, authorizing Title 4D cooperative agreements with various providers in the total amount not to exceed $10,691,877.95 for child support services for the period 1/1/2020 through 12/31/2020.
To adopt. Ask for passage. It's self-explanatory.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, the ayes have it, the resolution is adopted.
Resolution number 2020-0071, confirming the county executive's reappointment of various individuals to serve on the Cuyahoga County Community Improvement Corporation Board of Trustees for various terms.
Move to adopt. Again, with the following suit of my colleague, Councilwoman Conwell, these are reappointments, and so I respectfully request my colleague's support. Thank you.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, the ayes have it, the resolution is adopted.
Resolution number 2020-0072, extending the appointment of interim director of the Department of Health and Human Services, David Merriman.
Move to adopt. Councilwoman Brown.
Again, given the circumstances, I respectfully request to move this under the full support, with the full support of my colleagues.
Thank you. We would have preferred to have had hearings and looked at appointing David, but in the situation we're in, we've decided to make it an interim appointment. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the ayes have it, the resolution is adopted.
Resolution number 2020-0073, making an award on requisition number 47414 to Sherman Construction in the amount not to exceed $1,376,301 for rehabilitation of Bishop Road Bridge number 01.78 over the east branch of Euclid Creek in the city of Highland Heights.
Motion to adopt.
Second.
And, Mr. President, under these circumstances, this is a rehabilitation of Bishop Road Bridge. Director of Public Works is here if anybody has any questions on any of the following pieces that come up. I know when we've dealt with bridges in committee meeting, they've always been very important to have to get done, so I'd ask my colleagues' support on this.
Does anyone care to have the Public Works Director come up? Hearing none so far. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, the ayes have it, the resolution is adopted. Now, don't get too comfortable with this process, County Executive.
Resolution number 2020-0074, making an award on requisition number 47752 to the Vallejo Company in the amount not to exceed $3,991,132.48 for resurfacing East 116th Street from Miles Road to Union Avenue in the city of Cleveland.
Motion to adopt. Mr. President, this, again, appears to be a resurfacing of a road here. If anybody has any questions of the director, feel free to ask.
I'd like to add my name.
Mr.
your
President,
name.
add my name as well.
Councilwoman Brown and Councilman Jones would like to add their name. Would anybody like to hear from the Public Works Director? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, the ayes have it, the resolution is adopted.
Resolution number 2020-0075, making an award on requisition number 47718 to Chagrin Valley Paving in the amount not to exceed $2,504,354.06 for resurfacing Ridge Road from Memphis Avenue to Denison Avenue in the cities of Brooklyn and Cleveland.
Motion to adopt. And, Mr. President, again, this appears to be a resurfacing of the road from Memphis Avenue and Brooklyn and Cleveland. Again, any questions can be directed to the director if anybody has any issues or concerns.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, the ayes have it. The resolution is adopted.
Resolution number 2020-0076, making an award on requisition number 47462 to United Survey in the amount not to exceed $3,041,074.50 for the 2020 sewer rehabilitation program in various county sewer districts for the period 6/1/2020 through 5/31/2022.
I'll make a motion to adopt, but I would like to hear briefly what this is from the director. Sorry about that.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Councilman Tuma. Yes, these four pieces of legislation are very important just because we are coming into the construction season, and getting in front of them right now to get them awarded is utmost important. So I appreciate the help of council to move these items along. This item specifically is sewer rehabilitation, meaning we have a lining contract for sewers. So that if a sewer is in state of disrepair, instead of a complete removal, we have a lining program where they slip line through sewers in various communities. Our current contract is coming to a close with another vendor, and what we try and do is schedule out those lining repairs through the summer months. So when we bring on this contractor, they'll have a very clear schedule. They will go through these dollars probably right through the sewer or right through the summer months here. But it's important for us to move forward with this now. So your assistance on this would be greatly appreciated.
All right. All those any questions? Go ahead, Councilman.
Through the chair to the director, is it a cheaper cost, and this is also
Yes,
is
it
this
was
a new contractor?
That's right. It went through a competitive process, and obviously this was the group that we selected to do it this time around.
Do you know what the difference was from the previous?
From the previous bidders? Yeah, so we engineered estimate on it was 3.5 million. So we had So right now, the value of this contract is up to $3,041,000. Yeah, jump in
Sorry.
there.
Nicole English with Public Works. So the engineer's estimate was based on the previous contract, which is where we came up with the 3.5. We did get 4 bids, and the lowest is just over 3 million, so it's lower than the previous contract. It's all based on materials and what we actually use, though. So until we know how much we use of different types, that's how the cost will come in. But the cost is slightly lower than what we had estimated it to be.
And so is this legislation not to exceed?
Correct, not to exceed the 3.041.
Thank you, Mr. Dever.
Thank you very
As
much.
see, the council has a lot of confidence in your work.
I appreciate that, really do. Thank you for everyone.
All right, all those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, the ayes have it. The resolution is adopted.
Resolution number 2020-0077, making awards to various municipalities in the total amount of $3,188,198 for various municipal grant projects in connection with the 2019 Community Development Block Grant Municipal Grant Program for the period 4/1/2020 through 3/31/2021.
Move to adopt. Second. Is there anyone?
Do you want to speak to it?
Would the directors come forward and speak to it?
Mr. Director.
Is Sarah here or Ted?
Sure. Okay,
Can I have
we're
my
good.
name?
Good to see you.
Ted Carter, Director of Development.
Rather routine. We see it many times. 51 communities applied. You hear 21 have been awarded. How many applied? How many of the communities actually applied?
Okay. Through the chair to Councilman Jones, I'm going to have Administrator Jackson answer your question, as she was the person who led this effort and really did an excellent job with the applications, evaluating them and awarding them with a staff that comprised council staff.
Good afternoon, Sarah Parks Jackson with the Department of Development. We had 25 of our communities that applied for the CDBG-funded municipal grants this round.
And how many were awarded?
We are awarding 21.
21. All right. Any other questions?
Through the chair to Sarah, can you explain the process once this passes council votes? What happens in terms of how the money goes to the communities or to those that apply?
To the chair, to the councilwoman, the next step in the process will be my staff developing the agreement, getting that agreement out to the communities to get signed or go through whatever legislative process they need to have those returned, along with our required documents. We will get them in the system. We will get them signed by the executive, and they can begin work.
Are the 4 communities that did not receive award, are they aware at this time?
No, we will notify them now.
Will they be given an opportunity to learn why they did not win?
The chairman, every year we give the ones that won and the ones that didn't win the opportunity to speak with staff, to go over their application with them and tell them how they can make it stronger in the future.
Okay, thank you. No further questions.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, the ayes have it. The resolution is adopted. Yes, Councilman.
I would request my name to be added on this item and also on the next one, 0078, please.
If you could please add my name as well.
That would be Councilwoman Conwell,
Jones.
Jones, Brown, Tuma, Gallagher. Just add everybody's name, and if somebody doesn't want on there, they can approach you later and let you know.
Piling on.
Okay. Next item.
Resolution number 2020-0078, making awards to various municipalities and nonprofit organizations in the total amount of $1,610,364 for various projects or programs in connection with the 2020 Community Development Supplemental Grant Program for the period 4/1/2020 through 3/31/2021.
Move to
In the
adopt.
same legislation, move to adopt?
More questions? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, the ayes have it. The resolution is adopted. Thank you. Consideration of ordinances for first reading adoption under suspension of rules. Could I have a motion to suspend the rules?
Mr. President, I move to suspend the rules.
And seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, the ayes have it. The rules are suspended.
Ordinance number 2020-0006, amending Cuyahoga County Code, Section 501.08, Emergency Contracting Authority.
Okay, who do we have to come forward from the administration?
Mr. President, Greg Huth, I can describe this one briefly. The current Section 501.08 that grants the executive spending authority in case of an emergency right now is capped at $500,000 per emergency event. What this change does is give the ability to go over that $500,000 with the approval of the council president.
Questions by the committee. Councilwoman Conwell.
Through the chair to Greg, is there a sunset on this legislation? How long is this going to go to? And has anyone discussed, once this emergency, we're past this coronavirus, that we amend the code to go back to the way it was? Has anyone talked to you about that?
Mr. President of the Councilwoman, actually, this is only in effect during the term of the emergency. So once the executive determines that there's no longer a state of emergency, this would no longer be effective.
Okay, and so will there be a letter by the executive stating when he feels that the Cuyahoga County is out of this emergency, so we'll know?
Mr. President of the Councilwoman will have to revise the executive order, issue a new executive order stating that there is no longer a state of emergency.
So we won't have to amend the county code back at that time?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions by the committee? Councilwoman Baker.
Thank you. Just curious, is there, in purchases in excess of $500,000, is there a cap to that?
Mr. President of the Councilwoman, there is not.
Not a cap. And it says for any one emergency. What if there were a few emergencies? Would it only be for one?
It's, Councilwoman, it is for that one emergency, being the current state of emergency that we're in due to the virus.
Okay. So the emergency is talking about the virus, not the action that needs to be taken?
That's
Let's say
correct.
there were 3 different problems out there, all related to the virus. Would this cover all 3 emergencies that funding is needed for?
Councilwoman, that's correct. So at this point, once the executive has exhausted that first $500,000 worth of contracting authority, anything over that, for any contracts over that, would require the approval of the council president.
And clearly, this is, as we said earlier, and it will go to Councilwoman Brown, because I understand that this is unusual. This is to give the executive and the county the ability to deal with whatever comes our way. And Councilwoman Brown.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want clarification. So this is an amendment to the charter, but the executive is the only one who can reverse this?
Councilwoman, it's an amendment to the codified ordinances.
To the code, I'm sorry, okay.
And it's the authority that's here would only exist during the state of emergency.
Only during
So
the
once
state
which is determined by the executive. So once he determines we are no longer in a state of emergency, then this emergency spending is not effective.
And so to ease your perhaps concern, if there is an appropriation over $500,000 and I have to sign off on it, I will contact each and every one of you about what that amount is and what it is, so that you will know and give me your feedback on whether I should sign it or not. Okay, Councilwoman Simon.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. So what's contemplated in this emergency measure? Are there any particular purchases that are contemplated within this as we face this crisis? Are we looking at equipment? What exactly are we looking at?
That one I'm not able to answer. That's going to have to come from the director.
Mr. Executive, I rarely do this, but I think maybe this is
Sure. I can't give you a list, but I can tell you there have already been multiple requests for sanitizers, face masks. Hospitals have talked to us about potentially more expensive equipment that they may need. There's a whole list of things. With the jail, there might be some additional needs, perhaps to work on an area for segregating prisoners that are found to be with the virus. I mean, there's a lot of potential, but I can't tell you what they're going to be. That's the purpose for an emergency order.
And if I may, just on that note, there is a reporting requirement included in this. So as those expenses are incurred, they have to be reported to the council.
Thank you. And one more question as a follow-up. Will there be any contemplated purchases or receipt of testing kits for the jail and otherwise?
We have asked for multiple times for additional testing kits. Right now, all the available testing kits are out in use. Thankfully, the Cleveland Clinic has developed their own test, which is being used, and they can test. Right now, I believe it's 500 a day, and they're going to increase that to 1,000 a day. So right now, there is substantial testing going on.
I just heard Metro as well. It's not as many tests, but they're going to be testing at 3 different locations. One of them is in Strongsville. It's a big county. We need to, do some regional testing so we know what's out there. So this is all happening every day, changing every day. Councilman Miller.
Mr. President, as I read the legislation, and I'd like the law director to confirm this, once the emergency ends and the executive declares that there's no longer an emergency, this authority would no longer be in place. However, as I read the legislation, it does permanently change the code so that if in the future there is another emergency down the road and the executive so declares, then the same authority could be used in the future. Is that correct?
Mr. President of the Councilman, that's correct.
Okay, thank you. All right, any further questions? Councilwoman Conwell.
To the chair, to Mr. Huth, or to the executive, who is allowed to make the request? Like Is it directors or?
Mr. President, the councilman does authorize the executive or his designees, so yes, it would be the directors as well.
All right, I know this is big stuff. Councilman Jones.
For that future authority, should it be strengthened in some way that there's also an element where you come back to council in that time, just as they're coming to council now?
Well, I'm not saying we shouldn't, but I'm saying let's get this done today. We'll be reviewing this as the weeks go by.
Right.
And adapting to the situation as it unfolds. So your point is well taken, and I know the council is vigilant enough to be sure that this authority is not abused. Any further questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The ayes have it. Resolution is
Ordinance number 2020-0007, providing for paid providing for paid emergency administrative leave for county employees and allowing the county executive or its designee to temporarily expand the use of existing paid sick leave and unpaid personal leave of absence.
Second. Executive, did you want to speak on this or someone else? I was getting mixed signals
I'm
here.
sorry. What I have to say is separate. So
before
once this is done,
okay, hold your fire then, or whatever it is. Okay, Mr. Law Director, are you the designated? Okay.
And excuse me, Mr. President, anyone want to make a first and a second?
We did. I first and Brown second.
Good afternoon, Holly Woods, Interim Chief Human Resources Officer. Did you just want me to speak on it, or do you have some questions for me to address?
Explain it, and then I'm sure you'll have questions.
Okay. Through the chair to the committee, to council, at the onset of last week, at the end of last week, we sent out a notification to employees that they could immediately, if they needed to take off work, they weren't going to be telecommuting or coming into work, that they could take their paid leave allowances as a result of this crisis. And so in that messaging is that they could take sick, vacation, unpaid leave. And in addition to that is where this comes in. We would like to grant all employees 80 hours of paid emergency administrative leave after the employees have exhausted their accrued sick leave. So it would require them to go through their sick leave, and then this would be there as some additional paid time. The paid administrative leave time expires December 19th, 2020. So if they do not use that additional sick time for the purposes of the situation that we're in, it will expire as of December 19th, 2020. And the significance of that date is just the end of the payroll year for 2020. If the employee should exhaust his or her paid sick leave and there's an additional allowance here of paid administrative leave, then additional paid emergency administrative leave may be granted. So let's say an employee is diagnosed with the coronavirus and they get through their paid sick leave and they also burn through the 80 hours of leave. They have the ability to come to HR, come to the executive and request additional paid leave, and we will work out a process for that to be validated and how we will grant those. But again, it grants that employee additional paid leave based on the situations that they're facing with the coronavirus. In addition, we're asking to temporarily expand the use of paid sick leave in addition to unpaid personal leave. And the reason for that is that the handbook identifies that you have to use your time in certain manners. So let's say an employee has taken off today just because of they're concerned. They would have to use vacation. If they don't have vacation, they might have to take it unpaid. By allowing us to expand how we will use sick leave and unpaid leave, we'd like to allow employees to choose which leave they want to take. So if it's not for sickness, they could still use the accrued sick time that they have. They could use their vacation time. It essentially allows them the flexibility to use that time based on their needs. and specifically to the unpaid personal leave of absence, we do want to allow employees that if they just want to take some time off unpaid and save that leave allowance, that they can do so as well. Under the current employee handbook, under the unpaid personal leave, it requires employees to exhaust all of their paid leave allowances before they can take an unpaid leave. And because we're at the beginning of the year, we just don't want to require employees to exhaust all of their leave in order to take this time off. So that would be the adjustment that we're looking for and contemplating making under the unpaid personal leave. In addition, this would allow that if employees are ordered to stay home, the county executive shall implement paid leave with the approval of the council president for the period, again, ending December 19th, 2020. So it allows that if at some point we have to close down and they cannot work, that a paid leave can be approved at least until the time during this, the executive order for this crisis. That's it.
Okay, questions? Councilwoman Conwell is first.
Through the chair to Hollywood, some employees state that they have not been notified about this virus. Who does that fall on?
To the chair, to Councilwoman, when you say they haven't been notified about the virus, could you give me a little more information on that?
Employees, for example, in Virgil E. Brown building.
You mean the policy?
Yes. Policy or anything updated, because I'm assuming that most of them go on My HR and that's where you're updating the information. Is that true?
So we have two places where we have been sharing information, My HR and then by email blast, and then management as well has been sharing information. So I believe it was on Friday that an email blast went out to all county email addresses notifying them that they can take the time off and some specifics related to that. And then I do know as a result of that communication, a lot of management met with the team members to walk through what these would look like. So if employees are taking time off, of course, management needs to know and maintain schedules. There's the telecommuting provision where they need to coordinate as well. So in addition to email, My HR, there's been some management communication as well.
Very fluid situation. How often has it been determined that the employees will be updated?
So correct, it's a very fluent situation, and sometimes as we're getting ready to communicate, things change significantly. So it has been difficult to figure out timing of communication, but now that we have some very specific things in place, our goal is, if not daily, every other day. There have been various communications, if not from HR, from the communication staff, just in general about if you are working, distancing, the recommendations from the CDC about, just washing your hands and different things like that. So various communications, and especially moving forward, if this is put in place, will be happening almost daily.
Last question, have the directors chosen someone in their particular department to make sure that this information is updated? Have we got that succinct?
So a lot of the directors and chiefs have been having daily meetings, and as information comes up, they've been disseminating that. So it does depend on the size of the agency and how many people they need to identify. But most of them have assigned their directors over that agency to communicate and funnel that information through their management teams.
Other questions by committee? Councilman Schron.
Thank you. The Congress is currently considering legislation on this exact same area. Do you know how that would impact this?
So we had some discussions with law just recently. So correct, I think it's going to the Senate possibly today. And we do have to look at how these would interact, if it would be in addition to what we're giving, if what we're providing if what we're providing is more than what the legislation accounts. So we are working through exactly what that will look like with the law department.
Department, have you reviewed the legislation that passed the House? And at least my reading of it says that whatever you have in place, so if this were to go in place, that would be a mandatory on top of this, so it would be a double on top?
Yeah, Mr. President, to the councilman, we've taken a first cursory review of it, and I saw that same provision, so that's kind of where I'm thinking it is right now, but we haven't completed our review of that legislation yet.
I think that this would be better to postpone this at least till we see what happens with Congress, rather than paying for a double. I mean, what's the impact of waiting a couple of days if the Congress is passing this before the end of the week?
Frankly, we're not going to do that.
Okay.
And local governments all over this country are having to make decisions, and they're difficult ones, and they have to be made. And we are not going to wait for the federal government to solve these problems for us. And so, with all due respect, Councilman Schron, if there are no further questions, we have a further question, Councilman Simon.
No, not a question, just support. Want to add my name. Thank you very much for taking leadership. Protect our employees.
Councilman Schron.
Did you consider at all taking this, instead of awarding a double, to take it into next year's as an advance against next year's?
Through the chair to the councilman, I'm sorry, if you could repeat that.
Next year, there will be a next year as far as days of sick leave. Instead of awarding it for those folks maybe who have already exhausted it, those folks could be using it as an advance against next year's. It's common being done throughout the country.
Through the chair to the committee, and I apologize, I think I'm missing something there, but what we were looking at and addressing with this is that to employees who are either diagnosed or have a family member that's diagnosed, if they don't have any time available, this will give them the appropriate time they need in order to address those concerns.
Yeah. And next year, there will be additional sick days that they would be eligible for. And so for those folks who have exhausted their sick time under the exact scenario, they would at least can go forward and use some of that to claw forward into future events, where those who have not used all theirs up are actually going to be treated differently and in a worse condition than those who have already exhausted theirs under this, the way you've got this written.
Mr. Chairman, just if I may, this time does expire. So if you don't use it during this period, and at the same time, it is meant to protect people so they aren't harmed by the current situation that we're in.
They wouldn't be harmed if you use it, if you balance it out with those folks from next year's time.
It could affect their next year's ability to take sick time if they get some other situation.
The county executive.
I'll just add that the purpose of this is to make sure that our employees, don't have a disincentive to stay home if they're sick. We want them to stay home if they are sick. If your solution is a creative one, but it still creates a disincentive for staying at home because then they're worried about what might happen next year.
Clerk, would you call the roll?
I'd like to add my name.
Please add my name as well.
Likewise. I'm sorry, Ms. Conwell, Jones, Brown, Stevens.
I'd like to add my
Yes.
name too, please.
Brady.
Gallagher. Okay. And you want a roll call vote? Yes. Okay. Okay, I'm calling the roll on ordinance number 2020-0007. Ms. Baker? Yes. Mr. Miller? Yes. Mr. Tuma?
Yes.
Mr. Gallagher? Yes. Mr. Schron? No. Ms. Conwell? Yes. Mr. Jones? Yes. Ms. Brown? Yes. Ms. Stevens? Yes. Ms. Simon? Yes. And Council President Brady? Yes. Motion passes.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, I'm sorry to interrupt the council meeting, but this is important. I've been notified that tomorrow's primary election is being, in the next few minutes, is going to be postponed till June 2nd.
Oh, God.
The last day of in-person voting is today until June 2nd. People who have not voted yet can request a ballot by mail, and they have at least the next few weeks to get it in. So that's the breaking news. I believe it's going to be announced in the governor's press in the next few minutes.
So for those that have voted already,
the votes still count. People are done.
it stays in the...
Correct.
Gotcha. Thank you.
It's basically just postponing the in-person election day and giving more time for for mail ballots, so that I assume it's so that people who would otherwise come out can vote by mail and keep the numbers down.
Yeah.
at
Well,
the
I did have
election.
some comments about the election tomorrow, but those are pretty much moot at this point. We'll be looking forward to what the governor's, what's coming out of the state, Secretary of State or Governor or whatever.
This was the governor, I'm told.
Okay.
It also moots my press conference for tomorrow. Thank you.
Mr. President, will the in-person voting at Board of Elections continue?
It says that today is the last day of in-person voting until June 2nd. So there won't be continued in-person voting as I read the note that I received.
Okay. Okay, we're on emergency footing all the time. Discharge from committee and consideration of resolutions for second reading adoption or suspension of the rules. Can I have a motion to suspend Rule 9D requiring 3 readings and 12S discharging from committee by petition, dispensing with committee review, and discharging resolution number R2 2020-0064, R 2020-0065, and R2 2020-0066 to the full council for consideration. I move. Could I have a second?
Second.
Motion. All those in favor?
Aye.
And the rules are suspended.
Resolution number 2020-0064, confirming the county executive's appointment or reappointment of various individuals to serve on the Cuyahoga County Community-Based Correctional Facility Governing Board for various terms.
Second.
Council President, my apologies, a little stunned by the news that we just heard, given my position. These candidates, we're quite familiar with Ms. Carney and Scott Osecki as a reappointment, so I respectfully request that we move to adopt these appointments.
All right, any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, the ayes have it. The resolution is adopted.
Resolution number 2020-0065, authorizing an economic development fund business growth and attraction loan in the amount not to exceed $1,500,000 to Saucy Brew Works Independence for the benefit of a project to be located at 5810 Rockside Woods Boulevard North in the city of Independence.
I think we have some folks that could speak to this, because we haven't.
Yes.
Oh, move to adopt. Sorry, thank you.
Mr. President, council members, Michael May, Economic Development Administrator, Department of Development, along with Bob Flato, Loan Officer of the department. This is a economic development loan for a project in Independence on Rockside Woods Boulevard. It's going to be a 20,000 square foot facility for beer production activities, including also a brew pub and some other entertainment components. It's a $15 million project. We are recommending to provide $1.5 million loan for brewing equipment and machinery that would go as part of the project. We'll be alongside of a bank that's also providing some of the loans for the equipment, brewery equipment. It'll create 60 jobs. It's a 3.5% interest loan, 10-year term, and it's been underwritten and passed by the Community Improvement Corporation, the CCCIC, through its review on February 12th.
Councilwoman Simon.
What is the city doing in terms of providing assistance to this business?
Mr.
City of
Flato can
Independence?
answer that. I'm sorry, what?
Yeah, what's the city doing?
They're providing a $400,000, or Bob Flato Development, $400,000 job creation grant to the company. The site is also, it's part of a much larger undeveloped area. The city created a TIF, and they're financing $9.5 million in infrastructure to connect Brecksville Road to Rockside Woods Boulevard.
Yeah, okay, so I would ask for a committee meeting on this when we get back. I have some hesitation with all the money flowing into Independence in general and why the county needs to, each time there's a new business opening, provide money to them, whether, everything that is happening there, they're pretty stable and growing, and now we continue to just give money to Independence, so I'm concerned about this.
Well,
but
through
the
the
business,
president-
we're helping all these businesses that are coming through here in general, not all, but are from Independence.
Well, through the councilman, through the president to the councilman, that notwithstanding any loans that have taken place in Independence, I mean, this is a standalone project that does need gap financing. It has a stack of various funding sources, but it has fallen short with regard to the capital needs of the project. The county, in its effort to provide gap financing out of the Job Creation Fund and also to elicit good-paying jobs, these are going to be manufacturing jobs. Again, the department and the committee thought that looked at the needs of the project and the fact that it did need filler of capital for its needs. The bank was only going to be able to do so much. There is a developer that's doing some of the financing for the project, but again, it required a certain amount of filling for the capital needs of the especially the equipment. Again, we've thought that the project again did everything it was supposed to do with regard to the creation of jobs, tax revenue. The city has done a great job. I think they should be lauded for the fact that they've put in a $9 million road extension to create the palette for these kinds of projects. The Top Golf facility is going in on a site that's right next door to this one. And there's a real effort by the city to try to create venues like this and job producers, not to mention, again, the manufacturing component of this thing, to bolster its economy. And so, again, on its own legs, the project deserves the funding. Again, other projects that may have come down the pike to Independence notwithstanding. So again, that's precisely where the department and the CIC have recommended that we do this loan.
So we don't have the advantage of a committee meeting, so when we come back, I'd like to be able to see what order we're in, how we're secured, all these questions that normally would have been vetted for this project.
I understand,
So, I
and
know.
there are other issues like the Variety Theater as well that I want to have a hearing in CD about. But we will move forward with the legislation, come back afterwards and
I just wanted to
address
ask.
your concerns.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, the ayes have it. The resolution is adopted.
Resolution number 2020-0066, authorizing a U.S. Environmental Protection Agency brownfield revolving loan in the amount not to exceed $1 million to St. Servant Center for an asbestos remediation project located at 4291 Richmond Road in the city of Warrensville Heights in connection with the Silver Point redevelopment site project.
Is there someone to speak to the matter?
Yes, again, Michael May, Economic Development Administrator, Department of Development. Mr. President, council members, this is this has to do with the redevelopment of a 15-acre parcel site at 4291 Richmond Road in the city of Warrensville Heights. This is utilizing our U.S. EPA sourced brownfield money, again, in the methodology of a loan. The monies that we have gotten from U.S. EPA have been are being utilized by us now in the way of loans to help properties that are contaminated, be it land or be it buildings. In this case, this is a past nursing home that's, again, has been vacant for some time now, and it is laden with asbestos. It needs remediation and abatement of that problem. It's a $1.5 million endeavor to get the building completely abated properly. And we are recommending assistance to that project, that $1.5 million project, to the tune of $1 million in a loan, not a grant, but a loan, that will allow this building to be remediated to the point where it can be properly demolished, and then that site will have potential for any number of options of development in a very well-located site. Afterwards, jobs will come of that and tax revenue, but right now our program is to get the remediation, the abatement to happen. It's very difficult for developers and businesses to get the kind of capital needed to do this aspect of the project, to get it clean and shovel ready for the development.
Pending approval, when would you expect Mr. President, the remediation to begin?
As soon as we can consummate a loan agreement and go through the US EPA processes, public hearings and the like, and get okays from the US EPA Region 5 office. But this is on a fairly fast track. We're moving it along, and so I believe that we should be able to execute that loan agreement within 3 or 4 weeks and to get the project underway.
Council President, I'd like to add my name, and I also like to note that Jerome Duvall from the City of Warrensville Heights is also here. If there may be any questions relative to him, he might be able to speak to that. But I am very familiar with the site, and it is in need of this assistance. So I respectfully request my colleagues' support.
All right, any further questions? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, the ayes have it, the resolution is adopted.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Consideration of resolutions for third reading adoption.
Resolution number 2020-0047, authorizing an economic development special large-scale leverage incentive grant in the amount not to exceed $14 million to the Sherwin-Williams Company for the benefit of the headquarters project to be located in the city of Cleveland and the research and development facility project to be located in the city of Brecksville.
Move to adopt.
Second. We were expecting to have this in front of us on the 24th. We have moved a little more quickly than some of our partners. We are expecting the City of Cleveland to have a final vote on this on the 23rd. And we also expect the state's Board of Control to pass legislation on the 23rd as well. Given that the conditions that the county is putting forward are not going to change, we'll take this. I would assume we'll take this very small item and move it forward today with the rest of the agenda. Councilman Sharon and Councilman Miller.
This is it's sad that it's coming at the same time when all this other distraction is taking place, but this is truly the most iconic piece of legislation for economic development in Cuyahoga County in our 10 years on my 10 years on the county council. I think it's been spectacular to see the county executive and our council president working together to see this through, and my congratulations to them because its impact on downtown Cleveland and when those parking lots that have been vacant for all these many years are shining with jobs and new job creation. It's just going to be a spectacular day when those ribbons are cut and when the R&D for new projects and new processes are being developed out in Brecksville. That too will be an exciting part of this whole wraparound to be able to keep one of these iconic institutions here in Cleveland is a real step in the right direction to set the downtown landscape for us. And congratulations to everybody. And I encourage everybody to support it.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilman Miller.
Mr. President, my colleagues, I am very pleased that Sherwin-Williams has chosen to stay in Cleveland both for its headquarters and its distribution facility. Sherwin-Williams and Cleveland have a long relationship, and their continued presence will be beneficial to both the company and the region. That having been said, I continue to have equity concerns. The first is that Sherwin-Williams is moving its R&D facility from Warrensville Heights, a community with many minority and low-income residents, with no definite plans on how the facility left behind will be used. I believe it imperative that Sherwin-Williams work together with Warrensville Heights and the county to find a new use for that facility that restores lost employment and tax base. Second, I remain concerned that Sherwin-Williams terminated its agreement with its janitorial contractor and replaced it with a new company that is not signed on to the union agreement. As a result, workers are receiving fewer benefits and less opportunity for advancement in pay, and many are not working full-time. I am greatly concerned that this action will create a pattern that will be adopted by other building managers in Greater Cleveland, reversing moderate progress in pay and working conditions that janitors have fought a couple of decades to achieve. While I would like to see full resolution of the janitors' issue be part of this series of agreement, I also realize that no one wants to be the subject of someone's successful organizing campaign. So I call upon Sherwin-Williams to voluntarily require their janitorial contractor to sign the union agreement and provide quality compensation and benefits to their janitors, both now and in the new buildings, because it is the right thing to do. Currently, we are having people work for substandard pay and benefits and then trying to use social programs to clean up the problems left behind. This is not the way to achieve economic and social success. Success is having more people working for living wages, achieving self-sufficiency, and doing so regardless of race or gender. Everyone in Cuyahoga County must work toward that goal, including our leading businesses such as Sherwin-Williams. I understand that in other respects, Sherwin-Williams has created a diverse workforce with good working conditions. I simply ask Sherwin-Williams to apply the same principles in dealing with those who provide their janitorial services. Finally, most economic development deals are presented as but-for financing, meaning that the project have financing gaps that could not go forward without the assistance provided. Sherwin-Williams has done exceedingly well as a company and does not need the amount of subsidy reflected in the state, Cleveland, Brecksville, and county programs to complete this new construction. As a result of this deal, governments involved will be less able to deal with the other needs of their citizens. We need a national structure in place so that local governments are not at the mercy of their businesses on economic development decisions. Given these concerns, I seriously considered voting against the legislation. However, I am a utilitarian at heart. The deal retains 3,500 quality jobs in Greater Cleveland and creates 400 more. I cannot turn my back on these people and their families. It is a question of the greatest good for the greatest number. Therefore, I vote a reluctant yes and urge all of the participants to redouble their efforts to bring about true equity, where projects like this benefit everybody, including those on the lower end of the economic ladder.
Thank you, Councilman. That was a fine speech. I want to speak for the majority of council in saying that you have no more concern about this issue than anybody else in this room does. And so we will look forward to your leadership on these issues because you are so passionate about it. Thank you very much. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? The ayes have it. The resolution is adopted.
Resolution number 2020-0055, authorizing a state contract with Great Lakes Petroleum in the amount not to exceed $1,236,000 for the purchase of fuel for various county facilities for the period 4/1/2020 through 3/31/2022.
Motion to adopt. Mr. President, this resolution is dealing with the gas supply for the harbor maintenance building, the county airport, and generators in county buildings, and it will amount to about $618,000 per year. And this was presented to us by Ms. Nicole English on March 4th, 2020 before the Public Works Procurement and Contracting Committee. And I would ask that we move this along on third reading.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? The ayes have it. The resolution is adopted. I don't assume there are any miscellaneous committee reports.
I do have
but
one
you
such
do have
report.
one, of
And
course.
that report is in the way of cancellations. The Finance and Budget hearing on the Harris project, scheduled for March 30th at 1 p.m., is canceled. And the ERP meetings, both the Finance and Budget meeting, scheduled for Monday, April the 6th at 1 p.m., and the meeting of the Committee of the Whole with our consultant, Zig Berzins, for Thursday, April 9th at 10 a.m. Those meetings are also canceled. I would also like to say that that in the current emergency situation, of course, our greatest concern is the health and safety of all of our citizens, and that's where our priority and all of our efforts are going to be directed. But I did have a brief discussion with the executive on Friday in which we talked about the fact that this is going to greatly impact the county's finances. 60% of our general fund revenue comes from sales tax, and all these things shutting down is going to have a huge impact. And so I'm just saying that as the chairperson of Finance and Budget, that I'm going to work with all of my colleagues, with council leadership, with the executive and his administration, and do what I can to help us navigate the financial challenges that we're going to be facing. I don't anticipate any public meetings on this in the short term because of the situation, but there will be informal discussions. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman Simon.
I'll be brief. I just wanted my colleagues to know that we have lost our airport manager, Rob Hartigan. This is the third manager we've had since the new government formed, and we've lost all three. So we're without management at the airport, and I hope when we get back, we're going to have an extensive meeting about that issue. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Councilwoman. I know you've expressed concern over this. Is there any other miscellaneous business? Councilwoman Conwell.
Yes, through the chair and to my colleagues, I just want to go on record for the administration and to get some answers to, I know we passed some emergency measures today, but I'm still a little, being the HHS chair, what are some of the precautions for the employees that come into contact with the public? What are we doing about that? Especially concerned with HHS agencies and how each one is impacted directly. So I see that Holly Woods is gone from the meeting already, so she can't answer these while we're here today, but hopefully I can get some direct answers from someone after this meeting.
Yes, Councilwoman, understood. The council will not be out of session, so our ability to try to get information, to try to ask questions through the staff and through the administration is going to continue unabated. So we'll look forward tomorrow to continuing to work on these issues like the one that you brought up. Councilwoman Baker.
Thank you. I just wanted to bring to your attention, we did have a small council meeting or small meeting regarding the ERP. And I did make a suggestion, and I hope that we could follow through that because of the funding and the lack of funding perhaps from the sales tax and maybe the needs of us paying employees that are not able to be here, that we take a look at phase 2 and 3. That phase 2 and 3 are payroll, workforce management. We could perhaps take a pause from that project and let what's happened happen. It's independent, doesn't need to continue to those 2 phases. And we may want to take a look at that. So I did ask our person leading the project to give us a report as to what that would look like and if that is in fact doable.
Okay, thank you, Councilwoman. Anything else? Well, I want to thank everybody for cooperating in this difficult time and in this very, very special meeting. And we hope to be back to business as usual as soon as possible. Take care of yourself, stay in touch. Doors are still open. This meeting is adjourned.